The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth, no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Detroit sports truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics, and welcome to episode 194 of the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker. Please share this podcast on all social media networks, and thanks very much. I'm Taylor Phillips, and I'm with co-host Ed Smith. Thanks so much for being on here, as always. How are you?
What is up, Tanner? I'm doing fine. I'm blessed, locked, loaded, ready to go. We do have a heavy plate, a heavy menu, or I should say a heavy loaded plate to digest for tonight. You know, some big games, big moments, including a huge one this weekend with the Super Bowl. But before we get to the big stuff and the positive stuff, we got to take care of a couple crapshoots first. And unfortunately, it does involve the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. They lost to both the Lightning and Panthers. Let's put this whole debacle into operation, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So the Red Wings got swept in their state of Florida road trip. They lost 3-1 to the Tampa Bay Lightning in St. Petersburg, and then 6-3 in Sunrise, Florida. Let's begin with the loss to the Lightning, 3-1. Mrazek, of course, was in net. He gave up 2+ goals for the first time since his first of 2 starts in Buffalo recently, when the Wings won 4-3. His second start was a 3-0 win. But since the 4-3 win, Mrazek has been lights out until the loss to Tampa Bay. But you can pin most of this on the penalty killing unit. I don't think you can blame much or any of it on Mrazek. But also the Wings' offense is to blame for not putting enough pucks in the net. Ben Bishop was red hot. I understand that, but it's the decision making and the turnovers, this and that. They just continue to make those mistakes.
Just yet another example of poor execution, poor fundamentals, and just not good. Not just horrible shot selection. They're not giving, like you mentioned before, they're not showing good dekes near the goalie, trying to fake him out, feint him out, get him out of place, out of rhythm, just firing at the net, firing the puck in the net, hope something goes in. Not even capitalizing on rebounds most of the time. And like I said, some players, like for instance, Justin Applicator, in this one, I think he had only had 1 shot on goal, and that was it. That's a guy you're paying, a good amount of money to over the next few years. You expect a guy like him in a game like this probably, fire off a few more shot attempts to get something. Something has been Bishop. I know Bishop's good, but come on, you just can't, be so. Ugh. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I mean, granted, they got. It was early, but then for some reason they slowed down with their shot output, and I think that was one reason why they only managed to get 1 goal, because they slowed down their output. If they probably tried to crank up the pressures a little bit more, maybe they could have gotten something through. But again, yeah, I don't think Mrazek. He's not going to be perfect every night. There's going to be occasions where if he gives up, in this instance, he gave up 3 goals. You're going to need somebody on your offense to help you out a little bit, make this a competitive game. Nobody did that. And it was obvious. And like I said, the penalty kill, where the hell was that? I mean, I knew this. This team, this wasn't a world beaters club. I thought they had made some improvements with their penalty kill unit, especially since Drew Miller was on the ice. But they reverted big time in this one. 2 power play goals given up, unacceptable.
Yeah. 2 power play goals against is unacceptable is right. The penalty killing unit continued to struggle in the Florida game, I think. But Jimmy Howard was in net. He gave up 5 goals in the entire game, and then Jeff Blashill pulled Jimmy Howard way too early. When the Wings were on the power play at that point, down 5-2. They were trying to get back into the game. They scored They scored a goal with 2 seconds left on the power play to make it 5-3, and then they pulled Jimmy Howard again, and with about 5.5 to go, somewhere around there, the Panthers took advantage of a turnover and put it into the empty net, and that was it. According to Prashant Iyer on Twitter, at Iyer_Prashant, after the game he tweeted, Jimmy Howard's last 8 starts, record 0-5-3. Goals against 3.97, save percentage 885, 5-on-5 save percentage 910, goals saved above average a negative 7.812, and really bad starts 3. That tells the sign that Jimmy Howard is still not a good backup goaltender.
Oh, man! I mean, it was clearly evident before tonight, and yet for some reason, Jeff Blashill thought, for some inexplicable reason, he wanted to give Howard a shot. Not with the stakes like this, at this point of the season, against a team like this, especially who, by the way, is tied in a pitiable spot with you, not just in your own conference, but within your own division. So the reason that he had, I get to hear the reason why he put Howard out there, and at this point, I don't want to hear the reason. Howard has been showing signs that he just does not have it right now. So why the hell you keep trotting him out there, hoping he would, I guess we're going to use some baseball terminology here, run into a hot start? It's beyond me. This was not the time for that type of mental thinking. Okay, when you give up 3 goals in the first 9 shots of the game, that's when you pull him and put in Mrazek. I don't care. And you can say, oh, where's the defense? Where's the special teams? I don't care. When you give up 3 goals in the first 9 shots, that is on you. Period. I like Jimmy. I've always liked Jimmy, but this was putrid. Beyond putrid.
Yeah, 5 goals.
Disgusting.
Yeah, and most of the blame goes to Howard, and the other goes to Jeff Blashill for 2 things. Putting Jimmy Howard in there when Mrazek was projected to start both back-to-back games against 2 big teams in the Tampa Bay Lightning and Florida Panthers, and for pulling the goaltender when down 3 with still like over 5 minutes to go in regulation. I don't that's too risky of a move by Jeff Blashill. And
this team is not some slick handling, puck controlling team where they can find a way to not let Florida take the puck for them and then shoot it down the empty net for over a good 5-minute span consecutively when they get a chance to try to tie it up. That's just not how it is. This isn't NHL 16 on EA Sports where you have it set on easy difficulty. It just doesn't work that way.
Nope, it does not. That's just plain stupidity on Jeff Blashill and Jimmy Howard. Actually, he made a mistake as well on that 4th goal that he gave up. He poke checked the puck when there was a Panther and a wing approaching him. McKenzie scoring that goal. Let me see here. Look at the Red Wings app here. They got the full name. Derek McKenzie with a tip in. No distinct kicking motion whatsoever. That was clearly evident on the replay that Jimmy Howard poke checked the puck the wrong way. I get it. There might have been a bit of a bad bounce, but here's a lesson learned. Jimmy Howard should not have poke checked the puck at all. Jimmy Howard should have should have let the defenseman Brendan Smith, I believe, was covering Derek McKenzie. Brendan Smith try to do a little defense to help out Jimmy Howard, and Jimmy Howard's got to wait for the shot. Secondly, to make the save, to make an easy save, Jimmy Howard blew all that away by poke checking the puck. How
about this? How about you avoid all that and just not start Howard for the game? Period. And put Mraz again. Duh.
That's right. Especially against Tampa Bay and Florida. Two really good teams right now. The Panthers have climbed all the way up this season into the top of the Atlantic Division. The Tampa Bay Lightning are still in second place behind the Panthers. And the Wings are, with those two straight losses, both in regulation, not even close. Not even as close as some other slappy Homer Red Wing fans think. 3-1 and 6-3. 3-1's a little bit close, but not close enough. 6-3, not even close enough.
Embarrassing, a flat-out massacre. These were two of the, up to this point, the two biggest games that you are going to have this season. Back-to-back, on the road, against teams within your own division who happen to have the top spots over you, and you absolutely cracked the bed. You couldn't even manage to scrap away one single measly point, and now you're down to fourth place, and the friggin' Boston Bruins are now ahead of you. So now, what? Are they now, danger of falling into the wild card spot now, as the standings currently read, as a result of their last two games? Because if so, they deserve it.
You see, as you look at NHL.com, it has a new design. As you try to look into the wild card standings, I'm looking into it right now. Let me see, the wild card. Yeah, the Red Wings are now in the wild card now. A tie with the New Jersey Devils at 58 points. The Boston Bruins.
The freaking Devils.
Yeah, and the Boston Bruins, meanwhile, are tied for second place with the Tampa Bay Lightning at 60 points.
And don't look now, but the Pittsburgh Penguins are right behind you at 57 points, and they've just won 4 in a row. So come on, keep digging around and keep poking around. Let's see what will happen. Maybe if you lose this precious flimsy playoff streak, maybe some fans will finally wake up and demand better, see better, want better.
Yeah, a lot more fans are hating Jimmy Howard, thankfully. Yeah,
but now it's not just Jimmy Howard. It's got to be taken up to the rightful culprit, and that is Ken Holland.
Yeah.
And in some instances, Jeff Blashill too, because he is the coach that decides which lineup goes out there. How in the hell is Timu Pokinen a healthy scratch when you got Luke Glendening and Joakim Anderson fumble effing around out there on the ice? Really?
Yeah, and they never even call up Anthony Mantha like we recommended and demanded Ken Holland to do several times.
Unbelievable. If you needed somebody to fill out a spot, you couldn't call up one of your own young bucks from down in Grand Rapids, really? Guys like Mantha, I thought I'd see you, for instance.
Andres Athanasiou. Yeah, you could have used him to replace Riley Sheahan, who was out with illness in Tampa Bay, and you know what? To put Riley Sheahan out due to illness and not call anybody up for even one game from Grand Rapids is beyond me. Ken Holland again uses his arrogance and just coddles the rest of the roster who who keeps lacking production and keeps lacking work defensively and in the neutral zone as well.
I'm telling you, if it wasn't for Dylan Larkin and Peter Mrazek, I don't know what the hell this team would be at right now. Really.
I call it all complete laziness.
Without a doubt.
Just like the Detroit Free Press. Red Wings return home Saturday at 2 against the Islanders to start a 5 game homestand. And then Monday at 7:30 they play the Panthers again at the Joe on Fox Sports Detroit Plus. Then on Wednesday at 7, the Wings play the Sens on an early puck drop time. Friday they get the Avalanche on FSD, and then Sunday at 3 on NBC, the national broadcast, a national broadcast time, they welcome in the Boston Bruins, who have just jumped the Wings.
So yeah, to say this is a very important stretch of games coming up, that's an understatement. They better freaking show up. I don't know. Maybe the fact is they didn't. I don't know if they didn't let this get to or not. They should. They needed to. But maybe if they get their asses kicked like this at home and start to get the fans booing, maybe this will finally wake them up.
Yeah, I'm getting. I was getting more tweets from Jeff Moss at Jeff Moss DSR after his trip to the Palace with Justin Spiro. He tweeted, quote, "Too bad Ken Holland." He quote, "I was told a few years back Chris Ilitch was fed up with Holland, and Holland was pissed. Basically said, I'll retire and let Stevie Y run the team. And then maybe one day," well, Jeff Moss quoted Bob Duff's tweet. Bob Duff tweeted, quote, hashtag Red Wings, Polkinen must score to play. It's as simple as that. And posted a link, hockeybuzz.com/blog.php ? Post _, da-da-da. And then Jeff Moss quoted it and said, maybe one day when the Wings hire someone who understands analytics, Polkinen will play top 6 and 8, and 43 won't. Polkinen versus Helm. Polkinen versus Applicator and Helm.
Polkinen has had, especially according to Sean Byer's tweets, very good production in specific metrics and analytics. Why the hell you're not playing this guy when, obviously it's a time where you need him. It can't just be Larkin out there by himself. You're going to need some help. And you just don't have a guy poking in, and you're not playing him.
That's right.
I don't care if this is your first time coaching an NHL team. You got to know, at least by the freaking eyeball test, what's helping your team, what's being a detriment. Unless he's significantly hurt, Timo Polkinen should be out there on that ice.
He should be out more, out on the ice more for more ice time. Ken Holland is over commanding Jeff Blashill not to do so. Jeff Moss continues on. Too bad Ken Holland didn't make good on that idle thread to Chris Ilitch. At some point, Chris Ilitch is going to be fed up with barely getting into the playoffs and losing in the first round. And then
that I do agree with, because according if what Moss was told was true regarding what Chris Ilitch feels about the Red Wings, at least he's showing he cares about one of the Detroit teams in this town. I know he doesn't care that much about the Tigers, but at least it shows he's showing some care or thought for the Red Wings, and it's good, because this crap from Holland, it's got to come to a stop. It's got to come to a head sooner rather than later one day.
Exactly. And then he quotes Eric Lundqvist's tweet, and Eric Lundqvist tweets, no major trade since Kozlov for Hasek almost 15 years ago, and I heard Buffalo called him first. Jeff Moss said, Hasek's agent Rich Winter negotiated that trade. Ken Holland is the biggest fraud in sports. And then he tweets himself, I wonder how many home playoff games the Wings have had in the 6 years since they made their last cup, Stanley Cup. Not a lot. And then he's going to have a he's going to have a roundtable, a DSR roundtable Wings discussion podcast with Prashant Iyer, Anthony Ciotti, and Toffa Ryan about Holland when Lynn Spiro has her baby. I believe Justin Spiro will have off and visit his wife, I think. Yeah, Spiro does have a wife, doesn't he? Congrats to Justin and Lynn on having their child.
Good for him. Good for the whole family.
Yep. You can follow Prashant Iyer on Twitter at Iyer_Prashant, IYER_PRASHANTH. You can follow Anthony Ciotti on Twitter at ACiotti, ACIATTI, and Topher Ryan on Twitter at CWing10. These are three of the DSR's finest hockey analytics you can ever trust. That goes to Red Wing fans everywhere. And then Jeff Moss goes on again, quotes Augie Fredster's tweet, which says, I mean, I can't even think last time he's made a big trade. Robert Lang trade maybe? I don't know. F. Ken Holland. Jeff Moss says he just made up for his horrible trades with his third trimester abortion free agent signings. Ken Holland is garbage. And then Miguel Lacuda on Twitter, MLacuda6, said, just a horrible cap era GM. It's that simple. And Jeff Moss quotes it and says, and before that, he was gifted the 89 draft, Yzerman, Zetterberg, Pavel, and $80 million payroll. Joke. And then one last tweet here. Boston got rid of Clint Novak, CMU Pens fan. The team, tweeted Jeff Moss, the team who took the title from him in 2009, the Penguins, canned their GM after 4 years of playoff failures. Wings tolerate 6. Jeff Moss quotes it and says Boston got rid of Chiarelli also. Holland is solely living on the meaningless playoff streak at this point. That was it. I'm going to look for more and see if nope, none. That's all that Jeff Moss has said thus far. And then Anthony Ciotti goes on and tweets about Ken Holland. You can follow Anthony Ciotti on Twitter again at ACIATTI Ciotti. I'm going to retweet his tweets right now, and then I'll refresh my own Twitter page. He said, literally everyone had Milano as a better prospect at that time. What is your point? I'm sure you saw them play live multiple times in their draft year as well. Let me read. What the hell are you even, Eric Nunn? He tweets to Eric Nunn, what the hell are you talking about, future captain? Did you want Darren Helm with hands at 15? Nobody knew he would blow up. And then he tweets to him again, tell me where I've been wrong on Ken Holland aside from dice rolling. Maybe when I liked the Quincy deal. And then he said, good. Can you retweet a good take you've had regarding Holland? And then anyone who has opinions has been wrong. I will put my opinions out there. Where are yours? You sit and criticize, have an opinion. Excellent. I can't wait until the next time you criticize an opinion of mine without having one yourself. Enjoy your game. Oh, and by the way, go look at who was a better prospect on the day I made that tweet. Larkin literally blew up 3 days later. That was it. That's been it thus far. So, Red Wings on a 5-game homestand. Then they're on the road for 4 against the Islanders, Penguins, Senators, and Rangers before returning home against the Blue Jackets later in February on the 23rd. Then on February 27th in Coors Field, the Stadium Series game against the Avalanche. Then they're in Dallas on February 29th on the last day of February at 8:30. The Stadium Series game is on NBC national broadcast. For the complete list of NHL standings, go to the brand new NHL.com. Ed, your thoughts on all the rest of these tweets from Jeff Moss and Anthony Ciotti?
Well, it just brings up a good point where I'm of the belief, yes, culpability and responsibility needs to be, and accountability needs to be held up to Ken Holland and those around him. Because what happens if the Wings make the playoffs again and then get bounced in the first round again? Okay? If that's the case, Ken Holland should go, period. I'm of the belief now that he should have probably left after last year, because last year was just embarrassing. Well, not necessarily as embarrassing with Boston, but still, another first-round exit since 2009? Like, really? I had some high hopes, like, maybe with a new voice in town, we could probably see this team really live up to its potential, maybe get past the second round for once. But no, the way they're going, they'll be lucky to get to the playoffs. They will get brushed aside in the first round again. Then I would hope, be hopeful and optimistic to say that's when fans will have enough and say, hey, we want some real widespread change. But I just don't see that happening, unfortunately. So until I see it for myself, I think, some fans are just going to get lazy and content on the whole stupid playoff streak thing. I guess when it's finally broken, they'll be like, hey, maybe we need to make a change after all, huh? Ugh.
Yeah, I believe so. It's really troubling, and it's a disaster. It's really blowing up, and changes need to be made pretty soon. We can only hope. Now let's move on to the Pistons.
Left sideline, 3, and he answers.
Pistons score just 16 points in the first quarter in Boston and lose 1-0. What was that? What was the score again, Ed, in the Boston game?
The score of the Boston game was 102-95.
That's right. Thank you. 102-95. Pistons try to keep up with the Celtics, but the first quarter, 16 points was pretty much the tone setter for that one. It put the Pistons in an entire hole in that game. Pistons offense after that, Pistons offense in the first quarter was horrific, almost down to 12. The same way the Utah Jazz offense floundered on their own home court against the Pistons at one point, like a week or two ago, and in the West Coast road trip. The last West Coast road trip the Pistons were on. And then they come back home. They play the Knicks. They jump out to a 9-0 lead. And they are ahead by tons the entire first half. They lead 60-36. And then they completely blow it late in the fourth quarter, and then come back and win 111-105 at the Palace of Auburn Hills against the New York Knicks, who I mentioned in the previous episode, were not quite a terrible team, but still struggling. Probably in the middle of the out of playoff seeds. As you look in the Eastern Conference standings, Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond were doing their thing. Of course, what was up with Marcus Morris tonight?
Morris, for some reason, decided to act like an idiot and get himself called for a technical, even though Carmelo Anthony was the one called for a foul. Between this and the stuff about Drummond that we've seen over the past week or so, this team still has a lot of work to do in terms of its mental makeup and intestinal fortitude. They've really got to fix this up if they want to be considered themselves a serious contender for the playoffs. I mean, I like Stan Van Gundy, but he's got his work cut out for him in that department. He's got to hopefully get his players in line mentally. As for that, I will say, though, this was a very nice game to see, especially after the 16-point first quarter in Boston. It was very imperative that this team started off hot. You got, the Knicks in, from New York. They got them in from town. You got TNT covering the game nationally. And for that first quarter, really that first half, they showed out. But hitting four three-pointers to start the game, up 60-36 at half, had the 27-point lead. But for some reason, once again, that third quarter, they were minus 17 in that third quarter. That's what allowed New York to scratch and claw and climb their way back into it. And like you said, in the fourth, they even took the lead briefly. But thankfully, they found their stride, found their head, and thanks to some clutch shooting, not just from Reggie Jackson, who, by the way, stepped up again, but also from Anthony Tolliver, even. His one and only made shot of the game. It was his first shot, his only shot. It was his only made shot. It was a three, but it was a big one. It helped the Pistons regain the lead, and they would eventually hold on to that lead for good. Thanks in large part to Reggie Jackson's own clutch three-point shooting. But I will say, though, it was very nice, very, very nice to see Stanley Johnson step up big time in the place of an injured Contavious Caldwell Pope. They could have won with 22 points on 9 rebounds. Very productive game for him. Despite New York's best efforts, which featured another very, very good game from Aaron Aflalo, it was very nice to see the Pistons get the win on the home court, especially after the loss to Boston. They really needed this one, not just for a mental standpoint, but also make sure they wouldn't risk falling out of the proverbial 8th spot in the Eastern Conference. As of the recording of this episode, they are now currently at the 8th spot. They are tied in terms of, they're slightly behind the Indiana Pacers, but that's only based on win percentage. But hopefully, this will help them get them back on track in terms of racking up crucial wins over this stretch of time. As we head into the All-Star break, they could probably feel good about where their spot is in Eastern Conference standings as we enter the second half soon.
Yeah, the Pistons stand at 27-24. The Knicks dropped to 23-29. The Boston Celtics are now 29-22. Still a tight division, still a tight conference. May I rephrase that? Pistons still need to work on their defense. That's like, I don't know how many times in a row they have allowed at least 100 plus points, at least 100 points. But I think
it's like their 4th or 5th straight game they've been giving up 100. Let's see, Cleveland 114, Toronto 111. Yeah, my goodness, I think this is probably their 6th. Hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I think it's 5. It's 5, but still 5 games in a row giving up at least 100 points. It's I don't know what you need to do defensively, but you got to get something fixed quickly, whether it be in the paint or especially on the perimeter.
Yeah, or from 3-point range, as always. So the Pistons play in Indiana Saturday at 7 at Bankers Life Fieldhouse on FSD. Then they return home on Monday at 7:30 on FSD against the Toronto Raptors. They're looking for some revenge there. Raptors are, again, another good team. The Pacers in 7th place, 26-23. Very close matchup there. Then they welcome in the Denver Nuggets on Wednesday at 7:30. Denver, I believe, Denver 19-31. The Pistons lost their last meeting at Pepsi Center in Denver like a couple weeks ago when they shouldn't have. Pistons are trying to redeem themselves there, but Pistons and Pacers and Raptors, two pretty big games, starting with another division game.
Yeah, another divisional game. Again, with these, we got 3 games left until the All-Star break. 2 of these upcoming back-to-back will be against teams that are both ahead of you in the Eastern Conference standings, and one of them, like you mentioned, Taylor, it is a divisional opponent. So it's very imperative that you do whatever you can. It's going to be, I would definitely say the Toronto game will be more difficult. That's my opinion. But if you can find a way to win at least 2 of these games, it will, again, from a mental standpoint, it'll make you feel confident and optimistic where you'll be able to do going into this All-Star break. So, hope things come together. Stanley Johnson, do whatever you can do. Let's hope for the best, I would say. Speaking of Stanley Johnson stepping up, like I mentioned, there was an injury to Contavious Caldwell-Pope. Taylor, would you like to elaborate further on that one?
Just 1 minute. Yeah. Yep. Got that right. Pistons snapped their 2-game losing streak. I think 3. Hang on a second. It was it was a win, loss, and win.
I was just mentioning on how Johnson was stepping in for an injured Contavious Caldwell-Pope. Then we would just use that to segue into the news about Pope's injury.
Yeah, Contavious Caldwell-Pope. We first got word that he suffered a strained groin, but now, breaking news here, his MRI revealed a core muscle strain, which means he will be out until after the All-Star break, and then he will be reevaluated. That's not good news. He left the game with that late in the second quarter in the loss to Boston at TD Bankworth Garden. That's just a big blow to the Pistons. He's a very contributory player to them.
It's one of your starting. It's one of your starting 5. Who's also one of your vets from beyond the arc from 3. So hearing him suffer an injury like this, not the news that you would want to hear for your team going forward. I guess if you could see a silver lining in it, it does say that currently it's a muscle strain, not a tear of any sort. So even if he's got to miss a few games, be out for a week or so, I'd rather just do that than to have him further play and risk doing something even more damage to himself, and which will lead to him missing more time, which will lead to the Pistons possibly losing some games that they probably shouldn't have because he was out. So for KCP, for his sake, I hope he gets well, heals up, takes his time recovering well, don't rush back, so that way Pistons can have him better for the long haul as we get deeper into the second half of the season.
Right, that is unlike the Brandon Jennings, so unlike the Brandon Jennings ACL tear, which some Pistons fans may compare to, like it's an omen or something like that, but that's not nearly the case. So, moving on to the NBA All-Star Game, which I believe is next weekend, isn't it? Yeah, February 14th. Why don't we hold that back for right now? Breaking news here. We are now hearing that the HACA player rule changes could come this summer. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver quotes, "We're being forced to look into it." For example, the HACA Drummond strategy in terms of the Pistons, that may come to an end.
Part of me feels conflicted about that rule. Like I could understand why the annoyance of some, but I also understand why it's smart to others. It's strategy. You know, if you're down by a certain number of points and you got to find a way to get back in the game, what better way than to put the worst free throw shooter on the floor on the line? Like, give you a chance to get an easy rebound, which will then also keep the clock stopped before, you know, the guy shoots his free throws. Once you get the rebound, rush down the court, get a quick basket, and boom, you just cut the deficit by a little bit. So I can understand that, but I do also understand why it might be a hindrance and annoyance, not just the fans, but especially some players and coaches. I think it could be comparable to certain instances where the intentional walk would be used in Major League Baseball, but it's nowhere near used as excessively as it would the hack strategy being employed here in the NBA. So I could see why there would be a need to amend and change that, definitely.
Yeah, there were a couple games that I watched where I was thinking, is this hack a player strategy, hack a Drummond strategy going to go on all third quarter long and stuff like that? That's what aggravated the fans. That's what aggravated me, and then it starts boiling down to the league commissioner, the league board of governors, and the players association, and it now comes down to a point where they have to brainstorm something. And now they're going to set up a date sometime this summer where they can at least talk it over and try to come up with some idea how to make the game better. Back to the Knicks game. In the stands, Jeff Moss and Justin Spiro were attending the game. I actually saw them live on behind the bench on TNT. Not only on Periscope, like 3 or 4 times. That was 4 times actually. Moss and Spiro were periscoping 2 times before the game. Second time during the Pistons warm-ups. They took a look at Andre Drummond's free throw shooting before the game. He was like 12 of 19, 12 of 20, or 13 of 20 before they shut off the periscope. And then late in the game, the police came in, the last 2 periscopes, late in the game and then after the game. The police came in and sorted things out. Did you get a chance to look at the periscopes by Jeff Moss at the Palace earlier tonight?
Unfortunately, not quite. I was dealing with a little bit of slight busy issues around the house, but I'm sure it was all in good fun. Like I know Mosson's, and Spiro. They like to have a little bit of fun, but again, it's not too malicious or mean or anything like that. It's just the usual joking around selves, a little bit. The lighthearted nature, I'm sure, will be when I get a chance to view it. But I remember there was a tweet that Monster sent out that if Spiro ever does the underhanded motion again, he will be banned from the Palace for life. Which I kind of laughed at that a little bit because I was like, really? But I understand trying to toll down, if you feel like, I guess you could say a repeat offender, quote unquote, of trying to troll the team, but threatening to ban him for life from the arena, it's excessive to say the least. It also shows a bit of a thin-skinned mentality, which honestly, if anybody in the Bad Boys era did this, they would be mocked and laughed at for days upon days and years even. Like, really? For reacting to stuff like this? So, it's just, again, another aspect that I speak to of how this team, it needs a better, still need to tighten up a few things in terms of their mental makeup and their mental capacity, how to handle criticism, among other things. So,
Yeah. One more Pistons topic that I almost forgot to mention before we move on to college hoops. There was a source from DetroitBadBoys.com that, according to Chris Sheridan of Sheridan Hoops, several teams are looking to acquire Brandon Jennings, then I get a source from Detroit Bad Boys via Sheridan that a trade is being discussed between Jennings and Thaddeus Young of the Brooklyn Nets. What's your take?
I think, the Thaddeus Young, if it is potentially true, whatever, I can see the reasons why, because I think Brandon Jennings might probably look to play somewhere else, or at least sign a contract somewhere else that would guarantee him more playing time due to the contract Reggie Jackson has gotten. Of course, Jackson getting more playing time, period. This was, obviously this was during when Jennings was injured, but even still, since he's come back, it's still been more so around Reggie Jackson getting time more than anything. So I think Jennings, if he sees fit, will look to play elsewhere next year. A team that will probably have better playing time, better minutes on the floor. So maybe the Pistons will try to expedite that quicker, maybe trade him now and obviously get something good back for them in return. One of the problems I think has been, I've mentioned this before, they need a better presence defensive four spot. And I think Thaddeus will probably be a good upgrade here, a good role to fill in that spot on the rotation, so to speak, in the front court with Drummond. Not offensively, but like I said, I'm just looking for specific defensive help. I don't really care so much about the offensive floor help. You got that with Ilyasova and with Tolliver to an extent. It's just more so about getting some proper defensive help for Drummond. If you can get that with Young, great. If not, then maybe you have to look at elsewhere, maybe in free agency. But who knows?
Yeah, I actually agree. Chris Sheridan, not only does he provide offense, he provides defense. That's the key. Add more defense to this roster, not just Drummond and Baines. And because there are not enough Piston players that can play much defense. That's why the Pistons are probably that's why the Pistons should probably consider looking into Thaddeus Young. You can find that source on DetroitBadBoys.com. I shared it in the group Pistons Nation, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports Group, Detroit Sports, and on my timeline on Facebook. I just tweeted it, and I just pinned it on Pinterest. You can follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips. You can follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313. That is, we've covered a lot on the Pistons, and that's finally been it. So we transition to college hoops.
For three, yes, sir.
Michigan got out to a hot start against the Indiana Hoosiers, but then they fell behind late in the first half, and then they got shelled the rest of the way. Lost 80-67 at Chrysler Center to the 22nd ranked Indiana Hoosiers. The Hoosiers are a really good team behind Coach Tom Crean, but for Michigan to melt down like that, the Wolverines, that's just not good. That's just not a good showing.
This was one of those occasions and occurrences where you desperately wished that Karis LeVert was there to help, spark some type of momentum, playmaking ability, offensive production, any of that, because it was just not being shown after that early 15-4 stretch. They eventually would go, after getting the deficit cut to 4. Indiana would go on a 28-0 run over the next 10 minutes of game action. That effectively ended the game right then and there, in terms of trying to find out what was the difference. Well, there it was right there. It was either whether it be Yogi Ferrell being great on both sides of the floor, offensively, especially defensively. I mean, he held Derek Walton just only 7 points on 3 of 10 shooting. And another key stat here, Michigan just, again, they're a team that they live by the 3 and they die by the 3. Well, they die by the 3 in this one. 6 of 21 from 3-point range. Their past 2 games now, under 30% shooting from 3 of 12 of 41. Not good numbers that you wanted to see, especially when you got Michigan State coming up. But, it's just, we know what they are. They're not going to be a good rebounding team, period. But if they just hit their shots, take care of the ball, and just play good stretches of defense and not give up big runs like this, they can have a shot to win as many games as possible. But, losing Caris LeVert did hurt, obviously. And when you combine the fact that this team, they have a good record, but really, they don't really have a good record in terms of versus API, highly good ranked teams. And really, when you look at the makeup, look past the makeup and see how weak their non-conference strength of schedule is, you can kind of see, think of a reason why, they're a good record, but they're not really that good or even great of a team. Maybe they can surprise some people. I mean, they surprised a lot of people with the Maryland win. Maybe they can find a way to do so against Michigan State here. But I doubt it a little bit, and that's been unfortunate for me to say. By the way, speaking of which, I think this would be a good time to segue and preview and hold the keys to that, and give the keys and breakdown to that specific game. Correct, Taylor?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. Michigan State at Michigan, Saturday at 2 on CBS. Let's get analyzing here, Ed.
As it is, it's either around or on Super Bowl Sunday. The Wolverines and Spartans have an early afternoon clash on CBS. Due to the game being on CBS this year, it will be held on, and of course, coverage being dedicated all day Sunday to the Super Bowl. The Michigan State game will be aired on Saturday instead of Sunday, but that's besides the point. It will be held at the Chrysler Arena since it is the first meeting of the season. I don't expect to see Caris LeVert for this one. He's missed 9 games now, ever since suffering his second consecutive lower leg injury in as many seasons. It would have been really, really great to see the matchup between him and Denzel Valentine of MSU. But of course, again, with the injury presenting that, we won't see that happening. Most likely, I'll be very, very surprised if LeVert is on the floor for this game, and if so, I don't see him being close to the form he was before he went down. Which means, of course, it's going to depend on other guys, i.e. Derek Walton and Zach Irvin, to step up like they have before in some games previously to the Indiana game. So it's going to take guys like that stepping up. It's also going to take as good of a defensive game as you can provide, i.e. protect the 3-point line, perimeter shooting. You're not going to win the rebounding battle. I think you probably accept that. But if you can take care of the ball, play good defense, and please, for the love of God, hit your shots, he could give you a good shot to possibly make this a competitive game where you might even win after, making a key stop or two late. So that would be the key for Michigan. Hit your shots, protect the ball, play defense. Whereas if you're Michigan State, dominate the boards. That's Michigan's biggest weakness. So you just do whatever you can to be in the heavy plus version of that rebounding ability. Don't give Michigan easy shots. They are a 3-point shooting team by nature. If they have an open look, they can hit one, which will turn to 2, turn to 3, which will turn into a dozen if you let it get to that point. So don't give them easy looks. Dominate the boards. And if it gets close late, show the tendency. Don't let this be like it was against Wisconsin and Nebraska. Find a way to close this game late. They haven't been showing that much of that tendency to do so lately in a couple of games this year. So maybe since there'll be a little more roundups as it is against Michigan, if it gets that late, find a way to close it out properly. That'll be my keys for Michigan and Michigan State in that regard. As to who will win, I gotta say, if Caris LeVert was playing, I'll give the Wolverines a better shot.
I
just don't think.
Yeah, I think we're going to save that for 5 questions because that's what I had on my list.
Oh, I do apologize for that. I hope I didn't give away too much.
Nah, that's okay. You can start over when we get there. By the way, I also forgot to mention Michigan and Michigan State, the duel in the D, college hockey at Joe Louis Arena tomorrow on Friday at 7:30, I believe. The same night the Chippewas visit the Akron Zips at 8 o'clock. Speaking of college basketball, you can catch the duel in the D on Fox Sports Detroit, of course. It'll be a great game, but I think Michigan will pull that off. Now speaking of Michigan and Michigan State, it was National Signing Day, starting with the Michigan Wolverines.
Touchdown, Michigan!
The Wolverines was able to pull off a very, very good recruiting class, most notably by getting number 1 overall recruit Rashan Gary to commit to them. I think you could say compared to if you include the whole celebration of stars that they broke out, the likes of Lou Holtz, Tom Brady, Charles Woodson, Derek Jeter, of course, head coach Jim Harbaugh, even guys like wrestling legend Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, dirtiest player in the game. Yeah, exactly. Woo! Just like that. I hope I did make fun with that one. Absolutely. I think you did a good one with that.
Thanks.
I also filled in some key roles, especially in the terms of defensive tackle, especially, obviously, defensive tackle Rashan Gary. They kind of needed that after getting a decommit from one of their own, which I believe I forgot his name at the moment, but he would eventually decommit and choose Texas instead. So they got what they needed, defensive tackle, and they definitely got a lot of good wide receivers and tight ends. So I believe they got 5 or 6 or so of the ESPN 300 top receivers. So they're already getting their reload in motion for when the likes of J. Hugh Chisholm and Amar Darboh leave. So they're set at the wideout department. But again, like I said, when you get the number 1 overall rate prospect, you're going to have a good recruiting class as always. But this one felt definitely special for sure. The hype that Harbaugh is coming off of this first season, the expectations going into this one, like I said, the stars and extravaganza, the way that they presented themselves, it's been like a very good, productive, and successful day for Michigan in terms of recruiting standpoint.
Yeah, I believe so. Rashan Gary and Devin Asiasi or Asiasi. How do you pronounce that?
I'm going to say Asiasi.
Asiasi, thank you.
Yeah, he was a high-profile tight end. He chose the Wolverines also. That's a staple of Jim Harbaugh, the way he likes to operate his offense. Solid tight ends and great quarterbacks, as well as very good people on the line, offensively and defensively for sure.
All right, so not only did Michigan splash at least a couple, the Michigan State Spartans made a couple recruits as well.
Touchdown, MSU!
They have landed Josh King from Hinsdale South High School, a defensive end. A long and powerful Army American, according to Mark D'Antonio on Twitter, at D'Antonio Mark. Top player in his state, King of Illinois. Follow Josh King on Twitter at Joshua King _12. They also picked up at 10:40 a.m. Justin Lane, a wide receiver, 6'3", 170 from Richmond Heights, Ohio. Benedictine, hashtag Spartans, according to Spartan Football on Twitter at MSU _football. I believe I have the link to the entire list of Michigan State moves for 2006. Oh wait, Michigan. That's not it. Michigan State moves 2016 opener.
It's worth
to Friday night, but yeah, go ahead.
It's worth noting that at least according to Dan Murphy of ESPN, this was the highest rated signing class that Michigan State has garnered under Mark D'Antonio's tenure. This is very good to see. They also stayed very well, not just in obviously within the state of Michigan, but they also managed to branch out a little bit. They got Utah native Muffy Hunt, as well as wideout Cam Chambers from New Jersey. This was they finished in the top 25 in the ESPN recruiting rankings, which was number 21 specific, which again, according to them, the highest ever under D'Antonio's tenure. It's good to see because they're coming off of a year where they won the Big Ten title again. Actually, this time got to the college football playoff. Had only a one-loss season, the regular season. They lost in the ball game, but still they got to the college football playoff. That's a very high accomplishment. You would kill to be one of those final four teams remaining. So very good for them, and nice to see it pay off with them continuing that momentum and getting this high of a recruiting class. So it shows MSU is not going away for a while. I've learned to accept this for a while, but this is another steadfast reminder for those that were hoping, MSU, after they lost Alabama, they'll disappear. They're here to stay.
Yeah, I believe so. They just got to start working their way up. They reached the college football playoff, and now they got to start winning at least one game. They got to prove to them. They got to keep proving to themselves why and how they are an elite college football playoff team. Team
and program.
Program, yes. They just weren't ready for Alabama yet. The Crimson Tide, Nick Saban, and his team were just too good. They shelled them 38-0, and they barely held on to win the national title, 45-40 over the Clemson Tigers, the then undefeated Clemson Tigers, before the Tigers suffered their first loss in the national title game. And there's a reason why all of this happened. Nick Saban and his Alabama Crimson Tide are just way too good of a team for any foe. Speaking of Michigan State, as I was saying about that source on them moving their football 2016 opener to Friday night, it's against Furman on September 2nd. This is going to be the sixth consecutive season the Spartans have opened their season on a Friday night under the lights in East Lansing. Now, I don't know who Furman is, really. I'll have to look them up sometime down the road, but this was from collegespun.com in a source from Thursday, February 4th, just this Thursday, like today. Now, yesterday, it's 1:35 a.m. This was from 3:11 p.m. from Andrew Holloran. He got a tweet from Brian Bennett on Twitter, @BennettESPN with 2 T's, that Michigan State has moved its opener against Furman to Friday night, September 2nd. The article said Friday night openers have become a bit of a tradition for Michigan State's program, which has began the season on a Friday night every year since 2011. And college football fans can't wait. That's the reason. But it's going to be an easy one against Furman. The Spartans will win that game. There's no discussing that. So, speaking of football, we shift to the professional level.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
The Detroit Lions and their general manager, Bob Quinn, have decided to part ways with Sheldon White, the director of player personnel, I think.
Yeah, the VP, the vice president of pro personnel. He
Yep.
was the interim general manager the second half of the season after Martin Mayhew was let go, or no, you can say he was fired after Martin Mayhew was fired. But Cleveland feels that the team should go in a different direction, so they decided to let White go as well.
Yeah, they also let Tom Luan go when they let go of Martin Mayhew. He was relieved of his duties Thursday, just short of 3 months since being promoted to interim GM in what at the time was the beginning of a sweeping overhaul of the front office. His stats, his history rather. He played defensive back for 6 NFL seasons, including 3 with the Lions, 1990 to 1992. He was one of the players that led the Lions to a 12-4 record in 1991. He retired before returning to the Lions in 97 as their Blesto scout and quickly worked his way up to the personnel ranks. Do you know what Blesto stands for?
I haven't the slightest idea, to be quite honest. Sure it has to do something with, garnering youth leagues, recreational leagues. Probably something, that's just my honest guess, because like I said, I have no first-hand knowledge of Blesto or whatever the hell it is, whatever the hell it's called.
Let me see here. I'm trying to Google it here. See if it's an abbreviation or something like that. That's not.
It has to be, because I'm looking at an article on ESPN. The name Blesto is capitalized.
Yeah, it's all capitalized. Blesto abbreviations. No, not BLF. Blesto is defined as Bears, Lions, Eagles, and Steelers talent. The Bears, Lions, Eagles, Steelers talent organization. I think. Yeah.
Apparently they're one of the groups used in the NFL scouting combine.
Yep, I got it. Blesto stands for Bears, Lions, Eagles, and Steelers Talent Organization. Kind of like the old-fashioned organization in the National Football League. So we got that out of the way. He was named Vice President of Pro Personnel in 2009 and was in that position when the team president Tom Luan and GM Martin Mayhew were fired on November 5th on the heels of a 45-10 loss to the Chiefs in London that dropped the Lions' record to 1-7. At his introductory press conference the next week, White said he wanted to remain as the full-time GM, saying one way to do that was to win games. The Lions went 6-2 the rest of the way to finish the season with a 7-9 record. However, that did not save White's job as GM. The Lions probably had to go 8-0 to save White's job, but anyway, continuing on, he was interviewed for the full-time job, full-time GM, for the job of the full-time GM after the season, but was passed over in favor of Bob Quinn, the then New England Patriots director of pro scouting at the time he was hired by the Lions. This source from Mike O'Hara 11 hours before this episode. Quinn has made numerous changes in his staff since being hired on January 8th, making it unlikely that White would remain with the Lions. White did not indicate what plans he has for the future, which might not matter as much now that he's gone. Do you have any other takes on Sheldon White being fired?
Well, I guess you could say, they're not. I guess they're being a little bit different from what they were in the past, because, like I said, in the past, once they finally got rid of Matt Millen, what they did was just hire his understudy. So at least it's nice to see that they're trying to go the different route this time, trying to, do a full-blown, clean sweep across the board. But it's interesting. Bill Keenest has not been fired, and of course, course, we know Jim Caldwell will not be fired also, so you can't really call it a full.
That's what Jeff Moss tried to point out. The two men that have not been fired.
Yeah, so it really speaks to, again, I think Quinn knew what he was doing. With that, he doesn't want to get on the bad side of ownership if he let one or two or both of those people go, especially Caldwell, since the owners wanted to retain him, wanted to see him retained, and the players wanted to see him come back also. So Quinn was in a no-win situation there with that regard. So I understand that. I really don't understand the Keenest thing, but still, hey, it's not my, it is what it is. But it was nice. It is interesting and hopefully optimistic to see where they go from here, since they are, again, straying from what they would usually do, which was hire the understudy beneath them and keep it within house. So it was nice to see them stray from that line of thinking for once.
Yeah, it is nice to see that happen. Finally, we get to Super Bowl 50. Before that, why don't we transition back to hockey here? Elsewhere in the NHL, Dennis Weidman's suspension could be reduced. He was diagnosed with a concussion. It was confirmed. They will review Calgary's protocol. Just an update on that. So he might not be suspended 20 games after all. He he might be. It might be reduced to 6 or 10, something like that. One of the NHL lines.
If it's reduced to single digits, that's a freaking joke. You don't put your hands on an official, especially in that manner. I don't care if you were concussed or not. You just don't freaking do that.
Yeah, he cross-checked a linesman too. Not only did he get his hands on him, he got a stick on him. I mean, come on. What's the?
And he did so in such a blatant manner.
Yeah, because the linesman got in the way, and Dennis Weidman suffered a concussion after he was hit by one of the Predators players, and didn't receive a call, but that was a clean hit. And he still should receive a suspension for that, whether it's 6 or 10 or 20.
Again, you don't put your hands on the officials. If you want to reduce suspension, fine, but it's got to be double digits. He's got to learn to pay the price for his actions here. I don't care how concussed he was. You just don't do that.
I would say right around 10, because it's got to be at least 10 or 15 games. It's got to
be double digits.
Yep, absolutely. Can't be 6 or 9. It's got to be at least 10. Now back to pro football. Super Bowl 50, the Denver Broncos and the almost undefeated Carolina Panthers, who are the favorites to win Super Bowl 50, but Peyton Manning is trying to win at least one more Super Bowl before he officially announces his retirement. Break it down, then we'll go to 5 questions to make a prediction.
Well, in terms of what it is, it's exactly what it is on the tin, on the title. This is the 50th Super Bowl. It's weird to see a game start as little small as it did. Not so small, but it's the way that it did. Not even having the proper name that it has now, all the way back in 1967 when it was known as the NFL World Championship game. It now becomes this global, worldwide, international spectacle, which really, in some instances, aside from the Olympics, is the biggest event that you could have in all forms of sport in Carolina Panthers, as well as competing against the AFC champion Denver Broncos, who, finished 12-4, winning the AFC West. These are two teams that, of course, had home field advantage, so you could kind of say this is a chalk versus chalk matchup. But the way they got here was a little bit on different terms. Denver got here by besting a Pittsburgh Steelers team that had to rely on their defense. Again, on their divisional and conference championship games, they relied on their defense to win on both those occasions, not so much from the quarterback play. Peyton Manning, I think we can tell he's on his last legs. He may very well retire, win or lose, especially if he wins after this game right here. So that's going to be one key for what Denver has to do in order to have to win this game. Their defense has got to step up like they haven't, more so now than ever. You saw how they got after Tom Brady. Sacked him 3 times, knocked him down, 20 or so times, landed like 11 hits or so on him. They got to do that and then some against Cam Newton. Because Cam Newton, he's not, he's not going to be coming in injured and be like Ben Roethlisberger. And he's certainly going to be much more mobile and athletic than Tom Brady. So what you can do is try to use DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller to collapse the pocket, have your interior lineman try to get at Newton that way. But knowing Cam, he's going to find a way to break the pocket, break the pressure, use his legs, use his athleticism to get out of dodge, and obviously gain some yards on the ground as well. So the key for Denver is keep Cam under contain. Whereas for Newton, don't let the pressure get to you for Carolina. As well as I think in terms of offensively, Denver won't have an issue with lining up their defensive backs against Carolina's receivers, except probably two people, which one of course would involve the tight end Greg Olsen, and another which I think may be an X factor. Call me a homer here, but I think Devin Funchess could be a real good factor because namely his size. You can put a keep to leave on say like a Ted Ginn or somebody, but when you put him on Funchess, who's a big dude in his own right, the size advantage will probably likely favor Funchess in that regard. So I will be surprised if Cam goes to him and Olsen a lot in this game, knowing the size game that Denver limited defensive backs. So it's going to come down to those factors: keeping Cam Newton under contained defensively, and see if he can rely on other people, not just Jimmy Olsen, not just Greg Olsen. Oh my God, Superman reference. Not just rely on Greg Olsen to try and get him yards and touchdowns here. And quite frankly, this is the big, there's the difference between playing in the national championship game that Cam did in college for Auburn and the Super Bowl. But I'm sure he's not going to let the pressure get to him. Like I said, he's been on this type of stage before, so this won't be nothing new to him. And I think, really, it's going to come down to which team makes the less mistakes. I think I'd be more inclined to say that Denver might be more prone to make a mistake because that's where Peyton is at this stage of his career now. You saw how he looked in big spurts for the majority of the game against the Patriots. If anybody's going to make a turnover in this game, I'll most likely say it will be Peyton first. Then again, with that defense that Denver has, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up with a takeaway or two of their own. This could come down to a close game. I think Vegas has this, last I checked, as I heard rather, by the way, quick plug, Taylor, I thought you did a very, very good job on the DSR podcast episode 16 this past week.
Thank you very much.
And I think the Vegas line, you're very welcome. I think the Vegas line for the Super Bowl was what? Denver minus 5.5? Or was it Denver plus 5.5?
I think it was plus 5.5 that Justin Spiro said. We might want to we might want to replay the episode Detroit Sports Rag Podcast episode 16 on SoundCloud on Podcast Detroit. We might want, if we want to get to that part right away, we can just click on that part. It came right before Spiro let me talk about my my Twitter altercation between myself and Brian Kavanaugh, who was a Jimmy Howard honk, like Art Regner. But
I remember hearing Spiro saying plus 5, so I think I will check though. Just give me one brief moment.
By the way, to the rest of the audience, 5 questions is coming up, so stay tuned.
Definitely will not leave you in the dark on that one.
Absolutely. By the way, to all the rest of the listening audience, the Big Rapids Cardinals visit the Grant Tigers at 7:30 tip-off on News Radio WBRN, 1460 AM, 107.7 FM, and 95.1 FM in Big Rapids, the Big Rapids Radio Network, and online at BigRapidsDailyNews.com. That's the only way you can stream it online, whether it's on your computer, laptop, or your smartphone on the Safari mobile app, whether it's the iPhone or Android or BlackBerry, whatever smartphone you got, whatever smartphone you have, please go to BigRapidsDailyNews.com on the Safari app or whatever browser you have on your smartphone. Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome. Yeah, that's another good browser on your smartphone. Do that. Do that up.
Excellent one to use. I use it daily. As from what I can tell, the spread is currently it's Carolina minus 5.5. So it's Carolina that's the favorite. It did open up as a 3.5-point favorite. Then it climbed up to about as high as 6 points, but as of now, it's just over 5, between 5 and 6, so right around 5.5. Sparrow is not just taking the points. I remember hearing that he's not just taking the points; he's taking Denver to win outright. I can see this as a close game. It won't be such a shootout. I could see this one possibly going down to the wire like last year's game.
Well, we were going to save that for 5 questions, weren't we?
Thank you. Yeah, sure, absolutely. So it's going to be a great game that I'm looking forward to, especially entertainment value. Obviously, the commercials. By the way, the commercials. I don't like the fact that people they are leaking the commercials. YouTube is one. In a way, they're officially leaking the commercials mere days, a week even, before we get to see them play live on Sunday. And I think that was just the unique thing about Super Bowl commercials. You didn't see them air until that Sunday. So, I understand, hey, you want to get free clicks, but I refuse to watch those links and those postings until I watch the game for myself on that Sunday. So call me snotty if you want, but oh well, I don't care.
Yeah, to all the entertainment junkies out there, for the entertainment Super Bowl festivities, Lady Gaga will sing the national anthem before kickoff, and then Beyonce and Coldplay will perform at halftime. That's about all we got in terms of Super Bowl festivities, and not just the game. But moving on to 5 questions.
Here we go.
It's time for 5 questions with Taylor the Gator Phillips.
First off, in terms of the Red Wings, could Jimmy Howard be done after the season? I need an honest answer, whether you like Howard or not.
Yes. Unequivocally, yes. He's performed too badly now in this stretch of many games where if you're a realistic person, hopefully a smart person, you'll probably be more inclined to possibly try to look for another backup goalie after this season. So I would say yes.
Yeah, because he can improve.
Unless Howard does a dramatic, and I mean dramatic improvement, I don't see why you would incline to have him want to bring him back for next year.
Because right now he's having such a terrible, terrible time trying to improve, and he hasn't even improved yet, even once, except when the last 3 starts, he didn't get pulled, unlike the 2 before that against Winnipeg and that other team. Don't remember what that was, but anyway, I agree. Howard is clearly done. I think the Wings need to either terminate his contract, send him down, or trade him. But his trade value is getting even worse. They got to do something.
Next question.
Question number 2, shifting to the Pistons. How big of a loss is the KCP injury to the Pistons, and how can they carry on from there?
Well, it's not as big as it was last year with Brandon Jennings, because like I said, not only you lost Jennings to a much more serious injury, not only that, but he lost him for the rest of the season. Whereas with this one, it still sucks, but It won't be as long. I'd still say he'll be back about at least a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. Again, they're just taking their time. They're just going to make sure they don't rush him back in. Just let this thing heal on its own, so it won't be too detrimental. And like I said, if you have Stanley Johnson be consistent, I'm not saying he's going to score 20 points every night that he's starting at KCP's place, but if he's consistent, especially on the defensive end, use his wingspan or whatnot, get good blocks, as well as use good consistency with offensive production, will fill in for KCP until Pope gets back. So this will not be a big loss for the Pistons if Stanley Johnson performs well.
I have to agree. Darren Hilliard has been stepping up as well.
Next question.
Question number 3. Could the NBA and Commissioner Adam Silver make the right changes to the hack-a-player strategy this upcoming summer?
I think they could. I think they could probably amend it in a way where you can only do the hacker strategy only a limited time, not a limited time, but only for, let's say, limited action, so to speak. If you repeat it more than a few certain times, your team may get penalized, whether it be a form of technical, 2 shots in the ball, that sort of thing. I'm sure they'll find a way to work out a scenario where it'll be easy to understand, but not so much of a drastic rule change that people will feel the need to complain about. I'll be in the comparable. If I can find a comparison for that, in terms of trying to find the right change for it, maybe what the NFL did this past offseason with the extra point rule.
Next question.
Question number 4. College basketball, Michigan State or Michigan?
Well, I almost gave it away earlier. Thankfully, you stopped me, but I think you kind of get the gist of what I was going at. If Carol's was playing in this game, I would give Michigan a much better shot. But seeing as they're currently constructed, even though it's at home, unless they play really inspired ball, I see Michigan State winning this one quite comfortably, about maybe close to 8 to 12 point victory, because they're going to have the edge rebounding. And I think they're a much better team defensively than Michigan. They just got to make sure that Michigan doesn't get hot from 3, and players such as Zach Urban and Derek Walton don't turn up on you. You got Valentine, you got, among others, you got a full collected team, so to speak, whereas Michigan is missing their big guy, their star player. So if MSU could just handle the right things coherently and not let this one get too close near the end, they have a very good shot of winning this one quite comfortably. So I'm picking MSU. I know this may be a surprise to some people, but I'm picking it Michigan State to win. Now, part of me hopes that I'm wrong, so there you go.
Next question.
And finally, Super Bowl 50, Broncos or Panthers?
Well, after breaking down what I've seen and seeing how it may go, my final prediction is Carolina 28, Denver 17.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I believe the Panthers are just a little bit too much on offense against Denver's defense. The Panthers are going to come out ferocious. They're going to try for Super Bowl win number 3 since they were founded in 1992, compared to the Lions' 0 Super Bowl wins since the Super Bowl was first established. May I add on?
They've been in more Super Bowls in the past 20 years than the Lions have been in the past 60. Okay, think about that. Or 50, rather. Think about that for a second, okay? Again, speaks to the ineptitude of this horrid franchise. But again, good for the Panthers on them, especially if they were to win this one. Don't get me wrong, Denver's got a hell of a defense, but I think Cam Newton is just that too damn good of a player. He definitely should get the MVP, and I think he'll definitely prove that in spades on Sunday.
All right. Yeah, I agree. And for all the listeners and fans out there, if you want to answer those questions, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode. That wraps up episode 194 on the Detroit Sports Truth. And sorry to get ahead of myself here, but we're pretty much near the 200 episode mark here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is episode This has been episode 194. 195 is coming up. Ed, thanks so much again for your help. I'll talk to you Monday at 12:30 for episode 195. That is our new time from now on.
All right. You're welcome, Taylor. I hope everybody has a safe night and enjoy the weekend of sports, especially the Super Bowl.
Yep. Take your pick. Panthers or Broncos fans, leave a comment on there, please. And for Ed Smith, I am Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know. And go to Spreaker.com, look up the Detroit Sports Truth. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.